Damon Martin MMA fighting here with one of the top middleweight fighters in the world. He steps into another main event coming up in just a matter of days against Darren Till. Welcome back today, the one, the only, Derek Brunson. Derek, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for taking the time. I joked when we started recording. I was like, this is like a pre-fight ritual. Like we go back a long ways. I'm like, how many pre-fight interviews have we done at this point?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I think we date back to what, Strike Force?
Yeah, the first Strike Force fight.
Yeah. So it's
That's
been
a
a
long
while.
time. That's a long
Yeah.
time. So, Derek, how's everything, man? Obviously, a big fight coming up, big main event. I know it's kind of been in the works for a while. We were kind of waiting on the date, location, all this kind of stuff. So, how is the anticipation building now that we are a matter of days away?
It's good. It's all that I thought it would be, other than that it's not in London, but it doesn't matter to me where the fight is. I'm just looking to get out there and get it done.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that because one side of me thinks like you fighting in England with a crowd, it would have been crazy wild. You would have obviously been going in playing the spoiler against, Darren in his home country, all that kind of stuff. But you also would have had to travel, you had to deal with quarantine, whatever you have to do with going into England, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, now you're going into Vegas. You're not going to have a crowd. It's going to be the quiet, which again you've dealt with. But I don't know. Like, did you favor one or the other? Because I know some people kind of like going in and playing like the bad guy in somebody's hometown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I was warming up to it. I was embracing it. So yeah, I was a little disappointed when I found out it wasn't going to be in London because through this MMA stuff, I traveled all over the world. I fought in Australia, New Zealand, Brazil. Was supposed to fight in Germany. So yeah, man, I haven't fought in the UK, so I was kind of looking forward to it. And then when I didn't get to play the spoiler role, I was a little upset, but it is what it is.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, we're getting back to having crowds and audiences again and things like that. But I mean, a main event's a main event, right? I mean, this is where you want to be, especially where you're at right now, because you got to know. We'll talk about this, throughout the interview. But obviously, as you get closer to a title shot, these are the moments you want to be in, right? Whether it's London, Vegas, you want to be in main event fights.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter where the fight take place at. I'm really trying to set myself up for something big, and having the spotlight being the main event. This is three in a row. So yeah, just got to go out there and get the job done and look good doing it.
Yeah, this is a weird one, Derek, and follow me when I say this because where you're at in the rankings, and obviously we're talking about the title contention. When you look at the guys who are technically in front of you in the division, the guys, and I know you mentioned fighting Paulo Costa before, obviously Marvin Vittori's out there, and I know they're going to fight, and you mentioned some other guys as well. In a weird way, Darren Till is like he's actually below you in the rankings, but he always has this weird buzz about him. Like we just saw it. He was on the MMA Hour, a matter of days ago, talking. And Israel Adesanya is talking about fighting Darren Till. He's 1-1 at middleweight. The champ is talking about fighting Darren Till. Like, do you feel like in a weird way this is actually bigger? It beating Darren Till than maybe even beating a Marvin Vittori or Apollo Costa, just because there's always this kind of weird buzz around Darren Till.
Yeah, no, you have a great point there. He's really big in the UK. He has a huge following. So beating Darren Till can lead to bigger and better things. I mean, he's a game opponent. He's done great at welterweight, came up to middleweight, had some quality wins. He beat Gastelum when Gastelum, I think, was right off a title shot, with a close fight with Izzy. So yeah, a fresh face, a new guy that Izzy hasn't fought, but make no mistakes. It's my time, and I know what I have in front of me and what I need to get done.
Yeah. If I could explain, what attracts certain people to a certain fighter, I'd probably be a billionaire by now because sometimes I just don't get it. Now, Darren, I've barely ever talked to Darren. Seems like a good guy. He's hilarious. I think we all kind of laugh some of the crazy stuff he says and does. Obviously, has a huge fan base in the UK and in Europe, which is great, which is fantastic. But as I mentioned, he's 1-1 at middleweight. Now, there's no shame in losing to Robert Whitaker. Again, one of the best guys in the world, former champion. Again, no shame, but obviously had the split decision with Calvin Gastelum. Again, no shame in going to a split decision with that guy. But it's kind of weird for a guy with a 1-1 record. There's always this like a tension builds around. Do you understand it? Like, can you explain it to me, Derek? Can you do my job for and explain like what it is about Darren Till that makes him such a magnetic guy? That, like, there's always this buzz around him that like it's not that I don't get his personality, but it's like purely on resume alone, I'm not sure that he's quite earned it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I would say he earned it more than a guy like O'Malley or something like that. He's 18-4, former title challenger, holds a win over Stephen Thompson. Um, who else? He had another quality win too. But I mean, the guy has some quality wins. He put himself in a great spot. He's from the UK with a big following. That helps also. So he's just a guy to have a lot of buzz around him. You know, his personality. He's a solid fighter.
Yeah, I know you're taking him 100% seriously, but I feel like I already know the answer to this question, which is, can I imagine? No, you're not buying into the hype, Derek. Like you're not gonna get like you've been here before. You know these situations. I imagine whether it's Darren Till or Paulo Costa, whoever it could be, none of that hype is gonna bother you.
Yeah, no, none of the hype is going to bother me. I know what I got to get done. You know, the funny thing about it is I'm not as crazy as an underdog as I was in my previous, 3 or 4 fights. So that's funny to me, But yeah, I know what I got to get done. And I know what's in front of me. I know where Darren Till is good. I know he's bad. He's a game opponent. So, pretty much go back to that wrestling thing. I got to break him. I got to break him. So that's just it.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it's any giant secret when you look at what Darren Till does well. He likes to strike. That's his thing. Now, it's not to say he doesn't have a ground game, but again, what he typically likes to do, if you look at his biggest wins, have been on the feet. Now, you've obviously worked tirelessly over the years to get better with your striking. But again, you've shown we know you're grappling. We know you're wrestling. We saw what you did to Edmund. We've seen what you've done to other guys out there in terms of your wrestling and your grappling. Do you feel like that is the difference, could be a huge difference maker in this fight? Like maybe you could go 5 rounds just throwing hands with Darren Till, but on the ground, the wrestling, that's where it becomes a bigger mismatch.
Oh yeah, Darren, he's actually scrappier on the ground than most would think. I think he spent some time in Brazil. I think he was he's from the UK, but I think he spent I don't know 4 or 5 years in Brazil, right? Before he got into the UFC. So you can kind of tell he's a little crafty on the ground. But yeah, definitely when it comes to the grappling, I'm a black belt in BJJ and an All-American wrestler. So yeah, I like my chances on the ground. I think I do a lot of damage and mass work on the ground.
Yeah. When you look at that, I mean, you look at this fight with obviously he's fought a lot of strikers, which again, that's just how the matches go. But you look at this fight with a guy like Tyron Woodley. Now again, Tyron clocked him with a big punch and then got him down. But still, we know what Tyron, and then obviously what Tyron did on the ground against him. Now I'm sure you would love to hit him with the same right hand and finish him like that. But in terms of that, in terms of your wrestling affecting the way he fights, we know that's a real thing. We've seen it millions of times in the sport. When a guy's worried about the takedown or even thinking about the takedown, it can force them to fight a different way. Do you imagine, without giving away game plan or anything here, do you imagine that could play a factor here in terms of how he approaches this fight? Because if he's not ready for the takedown or if he's thinking too much about the takedown, that opens up a lot of possibilities for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know he's going to be worried about it. I mean, if not, he better be. So that should definitely open up some things. That's the great thing about being a complete martial artist and continue to work on your skill set is that you can be a threat in all different areas. So that's the part of the game plan is just making sure we're a threat everywhere and just making it count.
Yeah, you've been on such a great run here, Derek. I know we've kind of talked about this in some former fashion in terms of the improvements you made, the changes in your training. Now, I don't know how superstitious you are, but at this point, is it the blonde hair? Be honest. Is it the blonde hair that's creating all these wins? Because you got that blonde hair. Now you're not letting it go.
Yeah, man. Hey, we riding with it. So, yeah, we'll find out pretty soon, Go ahead and crush the next person, Yeah, then we start to believe that's real.
Now, have you been doing most of your camp down at Sanford this time?
Yeah, I'm here now. So, yeah, I've been down here for 5 weeks. So, yeah, really dedicated to being down here and put in the work, and we go to the fight and then go back home after.
Yeah. How much has that team meant to you? I mean, you've worked with a lot of good people. I remember very early in your career working with Greg Jackson, the guys out in Albuquerque. You've worked with different coaches over here. Obviously, you have your own team at home, but I mean, how much has Sanford added to your game in terms of not only just skills, but confidence, obviously having the right people in your corner, the right coaches. I mean, these are all things that play a factor. You go into the cage by yourself, but as they say, it takes a nation. It takes a nation to build a fighter. So how much has Sanford meant to you since you've been there?
Oh, it's been really good. Jackson's MMA was a great camp. Great coaches there, Greg Jackson and those guys. But yeah, we moved on and we came out to Sanford, and these guys, another addition, great coaches. great teammates, great vibes, great strength and conditioning coaches, great doctors. So it's like everything is like a all-in-one place. We have everything here, so there's no need to go bouncing around or all over the place. You can train, rest, go back to the gym, get your strength and conditioning done. Everything's in one spot and everybody's kind of invested. Even the teammates, everybody pushing each other every day, trying to make sure that you're in peak form and ready for your fights.
Yeah, absolutely. We know the magnitude of this fight, Derek, again, because of what Darren brings in, the attention around him. Again, when the champion talks about you, people are going to pay attention. And it kind of worked for Jared Cannonier as well, because obviously I know Israel had mentioned Jared as a potential opponent, and he kind of got some shine off of that, as he should. He's a great fighter. But you've been here before. You know what it's like to get close to that title shot. You know what it's like to be in contention because you spent so much of your career in this top 5, top 6 of your career. But kind of give me an idea, like what does a win over Darren Till do for you when you look at this division? Because I can't imagine it would put you more than one fight away from a title shot. I don't want to look ahead. I don't want to look past Darren Till, but you obviously you understand the magnitude of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a finish here, I think I could be looking at the next title shot, after Whitaker and Adesanya, like you said, December, early next year. A decision win, I can see me fighting somebody else and the winner of that gets the next title shot. So yeah, there's some possibilities, but definitely with what I've done in this division, how I've reinvented myself to go out here and get a finish, and look good. I think I'm deserving of that next title shot, and I'm planning on waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when you look at it, I mean, we know Whitaker and Adesanya are going to fight, and rightfully so, but we obviously Marvin and Costa are fighting, but they're two guys who have more recently just lost to Adesanya, so you can't imagine either one of them are going to get a title shot. So right there, this kind of puts you in that position. Jared Cannonier is kind of the other guy, so I imagine it's got to be one of the two, right? Either Jared or a title shot, and I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, a title shot right away when you look at where the division is at, right?
Oh yeah, I agree, 100%.
So now, with that being said, I remember because we do so many interviews, I remember talking to you before and after the Adesanya fight, and you were very open. You were very honest about what went wrong, what your mind state, what your mental state was going in there, and how it just, and that was kind of the last real big hiccup you've had in your career. And you've been very honest about that, what went wrong that night. I'm not asking you to break down how you're going to fight Adesanya different the second time. My question is this. When you look at that Derek Brunson, the guy who fought that night and dealing with the issues you dealt with that night, to the Derek Brunsons who's about to fight in the main event, looking for another big win after going on this great streak you've been on, do you see a huge difference in who you become? Like when you get ready for a title shot this time, when you get ready for, let's say, an Adesanya rematch, do you see how much different you are as a fighter? Like, do you even recognize that guy from a couple of years ago?
Nah, a couple of years ago, I wasn't patient. I wasn't about the process. I've never been 25 minutes, so, and that was even in a 15-minute fight. And even in a 15-minute fight, I was never really like settled in. I always felt like I was in a rush, but now I've been 25, I've been in main events. So now I know I can like go the distance. I can pace myself. I can pick my shots. I can set up. I can articulate a whole fight, whether it's 3 rounds or 5 rounds. So yeah, I'm a whole different person, in that first fight with Izzy, I was super in a rush to take him down, whereas there was really no reason to because I wasn't getting outstruck on the feet. I mean, before he caught me with the knee off my shot, I probably had more strikes landed than he did. So, like, it wasn't a thing of I was just losing on my feet. It was just like, okay, I know I'm so much better on the ground. Let me get it there. But at the same time, you can't approach a fight like that. You still have to set it up, be patient, and you have to be really to be gritty and grinding and get your stuff without rushing.
Absolutely. To that point, let me ask you this. We know the title fight is going to be Israel and Robert Whitaker. Obviously, you fought both of them in the rematch. I'm curious to get your thoughts, Derek. Do you lean one way or the other? I mean, do you see what you've seen out of Robert in his last couple of fights to think he could get over on Izzy, or do you still think Izzy is the better fighter? And is there any part of you that, I know, like I said, you have a chance to maybe avenge either one of those in the title fight, but I imagine, Izzy being kind of the dominant champion, maybe it would mean a little bit more, but like, do you find yourself maybe pulling for Izzy a little bit? I don't know. You tell me.
I don't care who wins. I mean, I like those guys. So I need to get revenge on somebody. Best case scenario, somebody wins. So somebody is going to win. And I need to get revenge on somebody. So may the best man win. I think Whitaker can make some adjustments and make the fight interesting and definitely a close fight.
Yeah, it's funny you said talk about the rushing and like the patience. I think when you look at that first fight, like Robert just went in there like throwing haymakers and you kind of just ran right at Izzy. It was a weird performance from Robert because that's not typically how he fights. So you know, patience and like fighting a different way. I wonder if he will fight a different way because that was a weird. I mean, obviously, no, take nothing away from Israel for getting the win, but like it was a weird performance from Robert that night. So I am curious how the rematch will go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Whitaker did look, a little overzealous in that fight, and yeah, making some. I'm sure he watched the film and his coaches did, and make some adjustments and be a better version of himself.
Yeah. And you've been here before, Derek. You know the opponents, you know the way guys talk, things like that. But you got to be excited in terms of, facing another guy like Darren. Darren is a talker. We know Darren's a talker. I'm sure fight week's coming. He's going to say some craziness. That's kind of his thing. But it seems like you've really zeroed in on everything. You kind of shut everything else out. Like it doesn't seem like any of that affects you anymore. And you just go in there and fight now. And the way, obviously Kevin Holland, you knew he was going to talk. Obviously Darren's going to talk, Israel was going to talk. It seems like you've been able to kind of shuttle that out. Just go in there and put on your performance and kind of shut them up, in the cage.
Yeah. We can talk before the fight, but at the end of the day, none of that really matters. What matters is your performance in the cage. So whenever fight night comes, you got to be ready.